ONT.
The ONT only have one input port, so it's not meant to, like on some ONTs, I think you could do point to point. But those are gonna be specialty items. Your typical ONT is just a subscriber box, basically.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, it's like from your main line, it's
From
gonna,
your subscriber box, your ONT
You're
goes
gonna
into
be
your
split.
devices, goes into your switches, gets distributed out to all your all your,
You know, using passive optical splitters. That's the main advantage of PON is passive. So you don't have to have smart switching or point fiber. So you take that one port from the OLT and can split it like 128
you know,
times ways.
it's every one, is it every one of these ports that would be only able to do 256, or just specifically the pawn, like if we're
Every
going
one
from
of
the pawn to this, then that can support.
it can support, each one of those ports could technically support 256 PONs.
Okay.
So 256
So you can put
times,
4,000
however many-
customer on that one tower.
So there's one, okay, that's what I was wondering, I was like, okay. So that's
4,000
where-
customer. If you have more than 4,000 customer, put another card in the chase.
yeah.
Gotcha.
4,000 customers.
That's how small the
4,000 customers per one of
Well,
these.
yeah,
That's my
256
unit.
times X amount of ports, so you have like, you know,
There you go.
20 ports, that's 4,000 customers.
I haven't had to build a big suite, so I didn't know how to do
But
that.
ideally, you wouldn't want to split up your bandwidth that far, because if everybody tries to run this at the same time, they're gonna have a bad. Plus, there's a physical limitation as far as like the uplink bandwidth on the chassis itself. Because all the subscribers have to go out through the tender card, the uplink card, basically. So that's gonna have like,
Yeah, probably.
that's gonna be point to point fiber at that, like 10 or, 25 or 50 gig or
So
whatever.
probably 1,000 users at the, probably is the good point where you're still getting really good speeds for everybody and.
Yeah, but they'll oversubscribe to 2,000 users, because not everyone uses the bandwidth at the same time.
True.
You're gonna have a lot of grandmas on the line and things like that, so it's just, you have to balance your expectations.
What
for
kind of a
what you
place
can
you
do.
need something like this? Was it like Boeing or something like that?
Netflix, mobility, we had something like that when I helped with, setting up Netflix, and then, big museums, new popular, like the museum on Wilshire and Fairfax in Los Angeles, those cinemas, it's the cinema museum.
Any of our electrical co-ops are gonna use a box like this but they're right now, they're like Adtran or other people, but we make boxes like this too. Yeah.
And like, for the museum, they didn't even use it for like end user computers, it was literally for every single smart TV and projector in the
Oh, sorry, if you don't mind, I want to carry on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Thanks for everyone's feedback. Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay, so this is a real topic this afternoon. Like we have some knowledge sharing about ONT we'd like to share with you. Okay. Okay, so this is the agenda of this topic. And in the first part, I will introduce our MOS tool and how we can use the MOS command to capture the log from our ONT devices. And then how we can use our graphic tool called JODD to help us to translate the machine readable MOS command, MOS log into a human readable data graph. And this chapter will have combined these three parts. Like we'll have an overview introduction about what is JODD. And also we'll go through how we can use a JODD to help us to generate tool with a MOS log. And the third part, I'll introduce that because there are some currently no issue on our JODD tool, and we will also go through them one by one. Okay, and in the second chapter, I would like to share some troubleshooting experience with you that our CSO ONT team ever met before. For example, we will have a look why the NE difference will cause the IOP issue, which is an interrupt issue to happen between the different vendors' device. And also, I will share some ONT POC experience with you, shared by our ONT CSO team. And after we go through all the two chapters here, we'll have a small hands-on to see how we can use a JODD to help us to translate the MOS log into a human readable graph. So that's why we set up ONT here and OLT here. It's for the hands-on. Okay. Okay, so let us begin with our first part, the Zycamp-ONT tool.
Yes, I wanna know if I can.
Okay, so before starting, I would like to introduce what is most mean in Zycamp product. And the term most stands for the MatrixStar ONCI stack. And it's a GPON debugging package that contains all Zycamp's unique commands for capturing ONCI message and replaying the ONCI provision flow. And why we need this tool is because the tool can help because the most is a command line utility designed for managing and configuring ONU. And the tool can allow user to debug IOP issues without GPON tracer and NT2. So the benefit of the most command is that it can not only save the cost, but also help us to speed up the debugging process and maintain the flexibility. Okay, so however, due to as we already know that the output of the most packets we get it from the most command is quite hard to read. So in order to help us to translate the most command into a human readable graph, we need the help of the JODD tools to help us to translate the log into a human readable graph. Okay, and in the later slide, I'll introduce how we can use that tool for debugging step by step.
So
Yeah.
the MOS tool, or like when we use that, we're typing in the commands and then it.
Oh yeah, typing a command to
And
capture
then
the log.
it craps out the information, right? But
Yeah.
obviously but it comes out in computing terms, so we can't read it. Okay.
Yeah, because that information is quite hard for human to read,
Right.
analyze. So that's why we need a tool to help
That's why
them
the
train.
separate tool is, okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought the MOS tool was already.
Oh, no. The most I mentioned in a previous slide, just
Okay.
the most command we can capture from our ONT devices.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, so the name of our most tool we design is called JODD. And the word JODD is abbreviation from the Java ONCI data path structure. And this tool is designed for easier troubleshooting IOP issues between Zycamp's ONT and the third-party OLT. For example, we can use the tool to help us to parse the raw ONCI data into a human readable visual data graph for easier analyzing. And also, the JODD tool has a three feature list here. Aside from processing the data and drawing the data path, which we already know, the tool can also help us to modify some display information, such as VLAN setting we set on this ONT. And also, we can use the tool to help us to export the data path graph to a PDF file or a SVG format. And those files are needable when our team wanted to analyze the issue. Okay. Okay, so in this part, we will see how to use our JODD tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Oh, thank you. How we can use the JODD tool to help us.
The tool is valid for both GPON and XGSPON.
Actually, not all the devices are able to use it.
That's what I was about to ask. Is it a Roha? Is it Cortina? Is it both?
Yeah, because from the information I get, only the Oppo platform devices support.
Like the 7516 would not support it, but PM5311 would support it. Because
Yeah.
PM5311 isn't
So no
an
Cortina.
open device. Well, I don't know if any Cortina devices support mobile or
I
not.
don't think so.
Not
Yeah.
Support both. I already have a tool that support both. So let's check.
Okay.
We gotta know how to work with these ONTs often.
I mostly I've worked with the 7516 and the 5311 and I.
And now
feel
Gina was telling me that they're gonna show us some new tool that's just gonna capture everything.
Yeah, because
Do anything.
after finishing the slide, we will have a little hands-on how to use the most tool and how to use a JLDD tool.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, because the ONT I put here and can support those two tools. And we'll use that to have a hands-on.
I'm listening.
Okay. Okay, so to run the JODD tool, we need to make sure that we already install the Java SDK on our devices. And this is a front panel of the JODD tool. You can see that the tool is quite simple, that you only have two buttons here. For example, we can use the browse button to import the most log we just captured from our ONT into the tool. Then press the draw button to let the tool help us to translate the log into the human readable data graph. And how we can capture the most log from our ONT devices is that we need to access the ONT's command line interface. And if we don't have, because most of because we suggest customer to capture the log through a console cable, but if customers don't have it, they can still access the device through a telnet or a SH session. But please make sure that once they log in the devices to a supervisor account, they need to type in the redirect console command firstly to let the ONT devices to print out the console log on the telnet session directly. Okay. Okay, and here are the commands we need to type in on our ONT devices to capture the most command. And once we type in this command on our devices, then we need to reconnect the fiber on our ONT devices and wait around 3 or 4 minutes for the ONT devices to re-upload the configuration through ONCI to the ONT. Okay, so when the data transmission between the OLT and the ONT is finished, then we use the CAT command to capture the ONCI data we just captured through the commands here. And the output of the command will show like this. And we need to copy only the raw data here and into a new TXT file and save it, because we will use this file to import back to our JODD tool for help us to draw the data graph. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we're back to our JODD tool. And firstly, we click the browse button here and import the data we capture. And then click the draw button here. Then the tool can help us to generate a graph like this. And if we want to export the picture which the tool just generated, we can just click the file here and click the save button. Then we can export the graph which the tool just generated into a PDF file or a SVG format. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of the graph generated by the JODD tool. And please note that the NE marked with a corner and shows in a blue color are the NE generated by our OLT. And the other one in a gray color and has corner are the NE generated by the ONT itself. And also on the graph, we can use this NE, the MAC bridge service profiles, as a center to separate the UNI side and the ANI side of the graph. Thank you. Okay, and the MAC bridge service profile is like the BR0 interface on our ONT devices, and all path has to be centered on it. Okay. Okay, and as we already know that the left side of the graph is belong to the UNI side. And like we can see, it shows us several ONCM management domain. It can show us ONCM management domain supported by the ONT. Okay, and on the right side of the graph, it's called the ANI side. Like you can display the other information like the gen port and the TCON on our ONT devices. Okay. Okay, and if it's a bridge ONT, the UNI side represent a LAN port, and the ANI side represent a WAN VLAN path. But if for HGU ONT, both UNI and ANI side are for the WAN setting of our ONT devices. Okay, and here is an example of the configuration. Like here, I enable a HGU configuration on our ONT devices. And in this example, the ONT has a VEIP WAN. This here is a VLAN translation, but it's quite small actually. We can see that it's 100 to 100, which means the traffic enter the ONT devices has to be tag VLAN 100. And then the ONT will translate this package to VLAN 100 and forward to the uplink device, to the uplink OLT devices. Okay. Okay, so and these two are the minor feature of our JODD tool. And the first one is that the tool can help us to briefly display the VLAN information tool. For example, although the tool is not clear actually, but we can see that here's a 222, which means the traffic enter the ONT's uniport has to be VLAN tag 2. And the traffic forward to the uplink port of the uplink to the uplink devices has to be VLAN 2 as well. Okay. And also here we can see that there is another one, the on tag to 1 and 0, which means the traffic enter the ONT's uniport can be the on tag traffic. And then the ONT will do a VLAN translation to VLAN 1 and forward the traffic to the uplink devices. And the 0 means here is represent the priority bit we set on the VLAN. Okay. Okay, so, and this is another feature, minor features of our JODD tool. Is that we can export both a data path graph along with a raw ONCA data into a PDF file like this. For example, here is a PDF file, and we can see that inside the file, it also includes the data path drawn by the JODD tool. And also here are the most log we captured from our ONT devices. Okay. Okay, so although the tool is convenient for us to do the troubleshooting, the JODD tool still have some known issue, hasn't been solved yet. And for example, the first known issue of the JODD tool is that the tool could only partially parse the ONCI raw data, that it can display the private NE. And the second one is that sometimes a graph element could overlap each other and cause it hard to read. For example, we might see a display of the graph shows like this. But this problem just a display problem, so we can just simply ignore it. Yeah.
I can tell that's from PQN or the VLANs look like.
Yeah. Okay, so this is our second part. I will share some troubleshooting experience of our ONT, like our CSO ONT ever met before. Okay. Okay, and this is our first one. Like we will see what usually makes the IOP issues happen between the OLT and ONT devices. And the code is usually relates to any difference between our ONT devices and other third-party OLT. Okay. Okay, so before we talk about what causes the issues to happen. Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you. Okay, so let me see what is NE first. Okay. And the term NE is abbreviation of a management entity, which are the abstract representation of the resource and the service in an ONU. And each NE has its own entity ID and some instance. And the entity ID is starting from the number 1 to the 65535. And also only a small subset of the NEs are mandatory. And those mandatory NE, we call them the standard NE. And the standard NE using the entity ID starting from 1 to 348. And must be supported by each vendor's devices. Okay, and apart from those standard NE, the other NE are called a private NE with the entity ID from the 350 to 300 to 65535. And those NE are reserved for the vendor specific use or for the future standardization. Okay, and the POC issues we encounter may related to the differences of the private NE most of the time. So if possible, we would like to get the information about a private NE from the third-party vendors OLT, if customer willing to provide it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here's an example of the standard NE. The standard NE must be supported by every GPON devices. Let's make the communication between different vendors OLT and ONT devices become possible. And as you can see, letter NE we raised on this slide. So with the entity ID 11. And the usage of this NE is to define the physical path termination point Ethernet UNI. And we can use this NE to represent a point at which an Ethernet UNI where the physical path terminates and the physical Ethernet physical level function are performed. Okay. Okay, so from the two tables shown here, we can notice that both our Zycamp product and the fiber home product can support this NE. And although we can see that although the name of the value are a bit different, but these two NE are actually doing the same setting on our devices and the fiber home devices. Okay. Okay, and this is an example of the Zycamp private NE. And the NE is developed by the Zycamp that can be used to configure the WAN setting for our ONT devices. And okay, and as you can see that in this NE, we can do some several settings, for example, like the connection type and whether the connection is enabled or disabled. We can all set the setting by using this NE to do that. Okay. Okay, and this is the example of the private NE of the fiber host models. Like we can see, the entity ID used by the fiber host private NE is a 65322. And this NE is also used in when we wanting to configure the WAN setting of the ONT devices. But you can see that the definition of the two NEs in fiber home and R1 are a bit different. For example, the connection type, if we see the value 0 in the connection type in fiber home, it means the ONT is set in the bridge mode like this. But when it comes to our product, we can see that the connection type, 10 here shows means the IPOE on our device. Toby? Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is private NE.
That's why there's a difference, right?
Yeah, that's why it's different, yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is a data comparison of the two private NE. And you can see that the entity ID used by our private NE is this one. But the entity ID used by the fiber host one is this one. And although these two private NE are used for setting the WAN configuration of our ONT devices, but we can still see some difference between these two NE. Like our Zycamp one can set the configuration, for example, like the gateway DNS, and whether the ONT will automatically get the IP address or not. But when it comes to the fiber host one, the setting is more, we can notice that they also supported the VLAN setting in this NE. Okay. Okay, so because of this difference in the two private NE, this is the reason why sometimes the IOP is issue to happen when we connect our Zycamp ONT to our third-party ONT devices. Okay, so when such situation happen, we need help from the frontline or the customer to help to provide a private NE of the third-party vendor OLT if possible. So like our RD team can base on the private NE to adjust our ONT firmware. Okay. Okay, and this is a list of our Zycamp made private NE for your reference. And as you can see right now, we currently have 9 private NE like this. And most of them are used for setting the WAN configuration and the firewall configuration of our ONT devices. Okay. Okay, so this is our next topic. Like I'll have a experience sharing about some typical cases like our CSO's CPE team ever met before.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, so this is our first stage. I will talk about what might be the cost for HGU ONU can work in a customer environment. And from the perspective of the G.9a, we can realize that the NE using by the HGU the ONT and the SFU ONT are different. For example, in a HGU ONT, they only take the VEIP as a partition point of the ONCM management domain like this. And also the HGU ONT also supports an ONCM management domain in a data plane, such as a TR69 and SMP. And on the other hand, the SFU ONU only supports the ONCM management domain. And the PPTP is an ONCM management domain that's supported by the SFU ONT. Okay. Okay, and when the ONU is doing a map uploading process to the OLT devices, the type of the ONCM management domain reported by the ONU depends on the type of the devices, it's HGU devices or FU devices. If it is a HGU ONT, it will report the VEIP as its ONCM management domain to the OLT. But if it is for the SFU ONT, it will report the PPTP as the ONCM management domain to the OLT devices.
PPTP, that's an interesting one.
Uh,
Old school, is this like an emerging market? this is like an emerging market? Was this the case from an emerging market like India or South America or something?
Hmm.
I'm just wondering who would use PPTP, or is it pretty common?
We use PPTP.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because
The-
SFUONT uses PTP.
The Richmond only on it, that was it.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah, so they mostly use HGUs in Central America?
Hmm.
Like the 55, that like Richmond only, that
Yeah.
will use a
Oh, interesting, okay.
We use HG, we use the BENT,
HGUONT.
but where in the market, which market, like US market usually?
Oh,
The 55.
I have customer in Spain and Europe using the HGUONT.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have my wires crossed.
yeah.
It's supposed to have a G-phone, but they're gonna G-phone, right?
5510.
The EX was like that?
No, it's called BX, BX.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
That one is,
Oh, yeah, if you don't have.
well,
Oh, we had some, I remember.
we never sold it, but we
Yeah.
have it.
It has a thing on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mostly
Yeah, yeah.
use ONT in US market is SFU1.
Mostly, yeah. I
Oh.
mean, we had some interest in the PX 7511
Hmm.
from Windstream, but we told them, well, you know, it's Wi-Fi 6. What happens if you want Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7, you know?
Hmm.
And they're more of like a tier 2 market. They're not like an emerging market. Their customers are going to care more for wireless technology. So we sold them on a 2-box solution. But of course, there was a whole interop regarding the PM5311 working with their Adtran OLT. We just finished that last month. Yeah.
Hmm. Great.
And now they're finally GA the firmware, so we can launch that. So a few thousand units first, and we'll see what happens, basically. But yeah, in the US market, we mostly use ONTs as a 2-box solution.
Oh, okay, so that's a SFUONT. Because you need to connect another like a gateway or device behind.
Exactly, they have more control over like the Wi-Fi router that goes behind it. So that's why we're like with the Ethernet routers, we're more interested in like the EX7710 or the EE 6510, because they're just Ethernet gateways. We don't have to worry about plugging SFPs into them, things like that. So that's although we might have some projects where we use the PE instead. But we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, sorry, carry
Oh,
on.
it's okay. Thank you for sharing.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here is a case that our ONT team ever met before. It's that we have a case before that our customer was complaining about our HG ONT can't work with the Huawei OLT after the provision. Okay, and how did they clarify what happened on our ONT last time? It's that they use the most command, which I already introduced in the beginning, to capture the most command, most log. Then use our JODD tool to help us to translate the log into a human readable graph like this. Okay, and after doing the above state, they finally find out the reason why our HGONT won't work with Huawei's OLT devices. And this is the reason. It's because that if the configuration from the Huawei OLT is readable on our ONT devices, our HGONT devices should not get the configuration like the PPTP on our devices like this, because the PPTP is more like for the SFUONT configuration. Okay. Okay. And if the configuration is correct, we should see a graph should be like this. The graph will shows a V, IP, and it shows here. Because because the ONT devices we use at the moment is the HGU ones. So we should see the HBE IP as an NE on our ONT devices rather than PPTP ones in this graph. Okay. Oh, okay. And also you can see this bigger, how to say, the information is bigger here. So we can see that the 100 to 100 means that traffic enter the uniport has to be tag 100. And if you see the untag 200 and 0 here, it means that traffic enter the uniport of the ONT is able to be untagged. And then the ONT devices will translate the traffic into the VLAN tag 100 and forward to the uplink devices. Okay. Okay, and this is our second case of a POC issue. And the symptom that we found this time in this case was a Huawei OLT can't get the WAN information of our ONT devices. And for example, you can see when customer connect both Huawei OLT and ONT together, on the web GUI of the OLT devices, it is able to read the information of the WAN configuration of the Huawei ONT like this. But when they connect our Zycamp ONT to the Huawei's OLT like this, it will show nothing like this. And the reason is that the Huawei OLT use a private and need to provision the WAN configuration of the ONT. So that's why our ONT devices can recognize such a setting. So therefore, our ONT won't, based on it, and need to configure the WAN configuration on it. And also that's the reason why we see empty information shows here. Okay. Okay, and this is the last case for the POC experience sharing. And the cases talk about that a different vendor OLT might use a different entity to provision the same thing. For example, in this case, customer noticed that when they connect RPNG 75 ONT devices to the Nokia and Huawei OLT devices, they found their devices, the PC devices connect behind our ONT devices is able to get the IP address through our ONT and OLT devices. But when they connect our ONT devices to the Ericsson OLT, they notice that our ONT and the PC connect behind the ONT devices is not able to get the IP address through the ONT and the OLT. So here are the comments how they debug this issue. Here are the steps how they debug this issue last time. And the way how they debug this issue last time is that they use a traditional method to capture the ONCF packet on the ONT devices. And in order to capture the ONCF packet on our ONT, we need to disconnect the home port of the ONT. And then we typing and access the command line of the ONT devices, then typing this command. And after that, we need to reconnect our ONT devices to the OLT again. And wait for about 4 minutes to let the ONT devices to help us dump the ONCF packet. Okay, and apart from capturing the ONCF packet, they also use the command they measure here to capture the gen port information of our devices. Okay. Okay. So after collecting the ONCF package, they discover the reason why the issues happened on our ONT this time. And the reason why the issues happen on our ONT is that the Ericsson OLT use NE named the VLAN tag operation. This one, the VLAN tagging operation configuration data. and with the entity ID the 257 to provision its ONT's VLAN setting. Okay. But in Nokia and Huawei OLTs, these two OLT use another ME to configure the VLAN setting of our ONT. And you can see that the entity ID they use in the NE is a 171. Okay. And the usage of this NE used by the Nokia and Huawei OLT is that it can ask the ONT to do a VLAN translation on the traffic from untagged to tagged, so that the traffic leaving the ONT's LAN port can without a VLAN tag. But the NE used on the Ericsson OLT, this one, is only ask the ONT to do a VLAN translation, rather than get rid of the VLAN tag of the traffic. So that's why the reason when our ONT devices connect to the Ericsson OLT, the PC connected behind the ONT devices is not able to get the traffic through the DHCP server because the traffic leaves the uniport of the ONT is with the tag. And the PC device can recognize the traffic with the VLAN tag. So that's why when they connect the ONT to the Ericsson OLT, the PC can get IP. That's the reason.
It was still tagged.
Oh yeah, still tag. So our PC will drop that packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason. Okay.
But the Zycamp OLT do support the extended VLAN tagging operation and the VLAN tagging operation data. And we do support both MEs. It's just that it's not working because the traffic is coming tagged. And that's why the Zycamp OLT dropped the packet.
No, the OLT didn't drop the packet, the
The
PC client dropped the packet because.
Oh yeah, the PC dropped the
Still
packet.
leaving the
Yeah.
ONT tagged. The
So
ONT
they didn't
Yeah, the
untag
ONT
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ONT would pass the traffic through the Ethernet,
Didn't
port,
untag
still
it.
tagged. So it wasn't untagging traffic and it.
Yeah, that's the cause of this issue. Because, yeah.
But what was the are you gonna go to the resolution or?
The resolution is captured on CLO and send it.
Oh yeah, capture. Yeah.
Like, so they like, it's not like a simple, like, okay, just tell them to,
No.
you know, put no tag or something.
They don't wanna change.
Because we can really, how to say? Because from the configuration of the average technology, it might be hard for us to recognize what exactly the command will do. So that's why the reason is suggest to capture the ONT data. Because from the capture list, they realize the NE they use
We can
on the
take
OLT is this one.
We can take a specific, on the ONT, we can auto recognize whatever OLT is being used, and for like the Ericsson use case, we can say, okay, well, whenever you see this ME, just strip off the VLAN tag.
Yeah, on the ONT.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Which ME is responsible for doing the VLAN translation inside the ONT?
VLAN translation is this one. Yeah, it's the one that use on Ericsson OLT. Because this one only, and if this one is talking about whether the traffic leave the OLT will be untagged or not.
It looks
It's
like
this one.
ME 78 as
Yeah.
far as I can see.
171. Yeah.
So then there's,
171, I'm
so
sorry.
there's really no real standard.
Every OLT has its own standard. Then there's a configuration on top of that.
The standard is sort of up to interpretation in some places. It's like how you have TR-181, but then you still have VSPs, for example.
Yeah, but then it's like everyone's using a VSP for something that should be a standard, right?
Yeah, we're guilty of that too.
That's such a basic.
Normally, what is a standard, most of the vendor will respect it. What they're doing is something that are essential, then they move it to
To
the proprietary. So they're follow the standard, and you're gonna probably get the link, but you won't pass any traffic. You're gonna do the essential ones.
Oh,
then
the
those are the
VLAN
ones-
tag, yeah,
The other ones, they're do proprietary, and that's when they make it hard for everybody.
yeah, so they can only work with their own.
And they don't wanna work with you to like figure out the problem, because they want the customer to use.
We got so far with Adtran though, the only thing we couldn't do is the firmware upgrade, but then we figured out that there were other things that needed to be fixed too, like the packet counters weren't working correctly. And there's like two packet counters, there's like the 15-minute buckets, and then there's a long-term packet counters, and both of those need to be fixed, and then there was a series of other things, but it would pass traffic and even register and perform switch calls, so.
Hmm.
That was the issue with, but obviously the big thing was doing firmware upgrade over OMCI because they use a proprietary container for their firmware upgrades on their OLTs, and if the firmware is not in that container, the OLT is gonna say, I don't know what this is. And then it's like, well, you try to give me a file, but I don't know what it is, so I'm not gonna do anything. So, yeah. That's the long and short of it.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
no worries.
Okay, okay, so finish. So now we have a little small hands-on. So for how to use a JODD tool.
Neil, before John.
Okay, so here I need to add it below the T. Might be a quiet noise.